Invited to deliver the centenary memorial lecture in Accra, commemorating the life of the great man, Nelson Mandela. The High Commissioner invited me to do that. So on the 18th of July, I'll be doing so. That is yet another big honor that the South African people are bestowing on me. And I appreciate it very much.
Talk more on the relationship between Ghana and South Africa. We are now joined by Professor David Himbara. Prof, thank you so much for joining us on the Globe on SABC News. Now, will the strengthening of bilateral ties between the two countries visibly bear fruit in the short term and to equal the benefit of both partners?
Well, thank you so much. First of all, let me say how pleased I am by this news. For one of the reasons your reporters mentioned, these are two examples we have on our continent of democratic governance. So the tying or the improving relations between the two really gives us hope and inspire us. Think that the rest of Africa will follow, go the democratic way. So that's point number one. So, number two, again, most of the reports have indicated the other good news. Trade between these two has been growing. So, too, has been investments. Perhaps the challenge I would highlight is that South Africa has to be mindful to the fact that it's a giant economy versus a much smaller economy, so that there is an attempt to make this relationship a two-way traffic, so that it's not one way.
Now, Prof, the bilateral relations, as you mentioned, that a lot of what we're chatting about was discussed by the journalists in the clip that we saw before our discussion. The bilateral, yes. Are we seeing a recommitment from both countries since they first came into effect in 2007 and now present day today? This visit, is it recommitment and is it a sign of success going forward?
Absolutely. It's like I said, it's a success in many ways. Politically, these are two exemplary countries that are consolidating democracy, but also economically, really, when you see the amount of, basically these two men meeting, blessing the good relationship that has been evolving over the past two decades. In Ghana, you have the MTNs, the Standard Banks, the Woolworths, Engine, Multi-Choice, Nando's, South African Airways. Really, South Africa is a major investor in Ghana. And so it should be. So the meeting of these two is again telling us that now we have to go beyond a kind of one-sided investment to help Ghana also become, so that, like I said earlier, to make it an inclusive trading relation. Otherwise, this is a win-win politically and economically.
Now, in terms of the briefing, the media briefing that we saw earlier, both President Ramaphosa and President Akufo-Addo spoke about the fact that these countries or the African continent cannot be dealing with poverty at the levels that we're dealing and facing it with the minerals that the continent has on its own, and having to look at economic development going forward, ensuring that that money or profits made from the minerals in African countries is brought back into the country economically. What's your take on this? And is this a possibility going forward? For example, gold and having refineries within the country, within the African continent itself?
No, absolutely. You see, again, when we look at what Ghana exports, it exports mainly raw materials that are not processed. So whether you're talking about gold, whether you're talking about cocoa, all these things can be processed in Africa to add value in Africa and therefore to industrialize the continent, as opposed to shipping these things out. Well, this problem also applies to South Africa to some extent. We've been talking in South Africa, beneficiation. So this has to come from talk into reality. And here is the role that South Africa could play in its partnership with Ghana. South Africa is a senior, maybe let me put it in numbers. South Africa is a big economy. You are talking about an economy of 349 billion gross domestic product per year, versus Ghana, which is at 47 billion. So this is a smaller country. So if this partnership can be deepened, we use expertise, and South Africa has expertise. South Africa has a manufacturing base. We can use these advantages to deepen the capacity to add value both in Ghana and in South Africa, to retain the resources onto the continent instead of shipping outside the continent. So absolutely, I agree to what you said.
Now, Prof, looking at the recently signed agreement at the AU summit, which was held over the weekend, does this put both South Africa and Ghana in good stead in light of a free trade agreement that was signed as well, just in terms of opening up doors for the rest of the continent or the other countries to continue on relationships established and to establish relationships going forward?
Yes, absolutely. This is a success story within a possible bigger success story of continental free trade. So I would see this as a building block towards that. And more importantly, the fact, you see, we don't want a kind of an economic association that leaves behind a political association. We can't have basically a free trade area that is continental with so many authoritarian regimes has a problem. This is why when you have these two democratic economic relationships between two democratic countries, it inspires others, not only on the economic front, but also on the political front, because the two go hand in hand.
Professor, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there for now. That was Professor David Himbara joining us there. And time now for a quick break on the Globe.